So, in healthcare professions, it's been suggested that successful treatment has to be grounded in the individual client's experience of his or her illness. And so, reasoning has been described as a process consisting of the interplay of a knowledge of disease, a theoretical perspective, so whatever theory is being followed for whatever healthcare practice that you're in, the client's experience, put those all together, and that's how we define clinical reasoning. So, what do we know about a disease process or a disease? What theory or research foundation do we come from within the field that we're in? And what is the client's experience? And put it all together, and that is the clinical reasoning, how we approach these situations. So it's the process by which our clinical judgment generates those clinical decisions that define and determine the procedures that we select and thereby the services that we provide. So it's kind of, a tacit process, meaning it's not always expressed, it's not openly expressed. It's kind of imaginistic, or as healthcare providers, we often visualize the possibilities, and we use that knowledge that's within us that isn't always expressed. So as practitioners, we have to be able to visualize the possibilities. So we act on one or more of the visualizations. So when I am approaching a particular client who's having a particular problem, I see lots of different possibilities. And you have to take all of those things into consideration to determine which approach that you might take first. That clinical reasoning is a continual process. So we have to be able to determine what is the best approach versus what is the right answer. Because in healthcare, regardless of the field that you're in, there's often more than one right answer. And that's what I always tell people. It's more than one right answer. If this doesn't work, this could be the right answer, but then it doesn't work, then there's another right answer, and then there's another right answer. So there's all these possible right answers until we find the one is the best right answer. So we have to make sure that the decisions that we make are temporary and flexible. We can't be so set in our ways and so close-minded. I think, Lindsay, I think you used open-mindedness as one of the examples in your teamwork discussion posting. And you can't be closed-minded when you're a healthcare practitioner, because you have to be open to other possibilities and other suggestions and different approaches to things. It's essential to being a competent leader and practitioner. The next competency is attentive and responsive to feedback. As a professional, think about why is it important that we listen to feedback. Well, let's say you were working with a client who's had a recent shoulder surgery, for example. You're performing passive range of motion, and your client makes a comment like, "It hurts when you do that," or "It feels like something is popping when you move my arm in that direction." While it may seem like these are simple statements that are no-brainers to address, the client's giving you feedback. And if you don't pay attention to what he or she is saying and respond by stopping what you're doing and perhaps investigating why the movement is painful, you could do real harm. Let's say you send a letter of medical necessity to your client's insurance company to get a piece of equipment that the client desperately needs. The insurance company denies your request and it indicates that you haven't adequately explained the therapeutic benefits of the equipment for your client or how the equipment will address your client's goals. This is the feedback outlining how you need to adjust your letter to help the client get the equipment. Here's one more. You're working in a hospital and your supervisor does your annual performance evaluation, and she tells you that your clients have been complaining about your bedside manner and your inappropriate jokes. You believe that these are just a few complainers who would not have been happy regardless of what you did, so you don't change your approach. 3 months later, your supervisor calls you into her office. What do you think is going to happen? You're getting fired. So it's important to be responsive to feedback, to be a leader and competent practitioner. Self-regulation is another competency. Self-regulation is an integrated learning process, and it consists of the development of a set of constructive behaviors that affect your learning. These processes are planned and adapted to support the pursuit of whatever goal you are seeking within the environment. So, as students, you can become more self-regulated by acquiring specific strategies that are successful and enable you to increase your control over your own behavior and environment. The best learning occurs when someone carefully observes and considers your own behaviors and acts upon what you have learned. So, from a student perspective, that means that students learn to decrease these negative behaviors and increase positive behaviors when they are able to regulate them on their own. Students who are self-regulated have to learn to ask themselves, does this strategy work for me in this situation? And in order to self-regulate, you have to shift your focus from comparing your performance to your peers to comparing your performance to yourself, and being reactive, shift from being reactive learners to proactive learners. Don't react after you get a grade. Be proactive and seek the information that you need to be able to get the grade that you desire before you hand an assignment in. So again, this is where we learn that there are different ways to approach things. And when you have a learner who has a high level of self-regulation, they have good control over reaching their goals. So they're better able to reach those goals. So really important in terms of yourself as a student and yourself as a future healthcare provider. How do you acquire these skills? There's different ways to acquire self-regulation as a student. So if you need self-regulation of behavior, that involves an active control of the resources that you have available to them, such as time, your study environment, your use of other peers or faculty members to help you. So, getting very active control over those resources. So set up your study environment so that it's effective for you. Set up your time. If you're a morning person, set up your time so that you can do the tasks that you need in the morning. Self-regulation of motivation and affect involves controlling and changing your motivational beliefs, such as self-efficacy, goal orientation, so that you can adapt to the demands of a particular course. Or you can learn how to control your emotions and affects, such as anxiety, in ways to improve your learning. And then there's self-regulation of cognition, which involves controlling the various cognitive strategies for learning. So those deep processing strategies that result in better learning and performance. So, being able to know what type of a learner you are and being able to use those strategies to help do your best. So that's all involved in self-regulation. There are also other strategies, personal behavior and environmental, that are your individual self-regulation strategies that can be useful for students. And they fall into those three different categories: personal, behavior, and environmental. In personal, those usually involve how you organize and interpret information. So that can include things like outlining, summarizing, rearranging material, highlighting, using pictures or graphs or web mapping. It can also involve things like setting goals, keeping records, note-taking, using mnemonic devices might be helpful. So all of those things that might be helpful to you based on your personal learning style. Behavioral are the strategies that involve the actions that you can take. So paying attention to that feedback, using motivating treats. So, if I write one page of my assignment, then I'm going to give myself 15 minutes of FaceTime or whatever. That reinforcement or delay of gratification. I can't go on Facebook or I can't go out with my friends until I get that paper done. So that's setting up your own personal self-regulation strategy. I kind of did behavioral already. And then environmental. So using those strategies and structuring your physical environment. So setting up and seeking information, using the library, using the internet, using the most appropriate physical setting, eliminating distractions, getting help from peers or teachers. So using these strategies, I'm telling you how to use them as students, but these also apply to how you would use them as a professional. Self-confidence is another competency. Trust your personal judgment. You have to believe in what you're doing and your ability to do it if you expect your clients are going to do the same. If you doubt yourself, they're going to doubt you too. So you know, to be able to do that, you have to have a strong awareness of your personal strengths and limitations. Know what you can do and do well. Know what you can do but maybe not so well. Be aware of that, and then don't do anything beyond your scope of abilities when you're working with your clients. Motivation and initiative are also other competencies. It's not the level of the endeavor, but the manner in which it's accomplished that makes the difference and accounts for success or failure. Although there are characteristics like skill and knowledge and common sense and emotional maturity in the presence of opportunity that can assist with the accomplishment of professional goals and personal goals, they're not sufficient by themselves to guarantee it. Motivation and initiative are the workhorses that deliver that success. Success in any task is a ladder that can't be climbed if you've got your hands in your pockets. So what are they? What effect do initiative and motivation have on personal success and life satisfaction? What's the connection between personal success and professional advancement? Looking at initiative is readiness to attempt or engage in what requires energy or daring or ambition. It's your push. You often hear words like she's driven to do something. You have to have that drive to succeed. And motivation is something that rouses your mind or your spirits and incites you to activity. It's that stimulus, it's that catalyst, the impetus that gets you moving, your incentive to do something, the stimulant to move forward. And it's unique to each of us. So these terms are often used interchangeably, motivation and initiative. But initiative is something that's innate to us. Okay? It's intrinsic, whereas the motivation is external. But they work together. They're used in close proximity and are really difficult to separate. So while initiative may be an internal force, it takes motivation to turn it into action. Without the motivation, initiative may never be exercised. The outward evidence of successful motivation and the subsequent use of initiative is action. So what do we do with both of those? So action is the desired personal or professional response. That's the end product of initiative. Okay? You with me? You need motivation and initiative to get to action, which is the end product of what it is that we're looking for. So it's our responsibility as healthcare providers to motivate, which is to encourage, develop, enhance, expand, and awaken the initiative in ourselves and our clients. There are two distinct forms of initiative and motivation. Extrinsic initiative and motivation is based on the requirements of others. It's the level of initiative or motivation that's common to a novice practitioner who's driven by a fear of failure, the need for professional status, desire to belong, and it's not a long-lasting effect. You know, the person who learns or who studies to please the professor or the parent, whereas intrinsic motivation is initiative derived from our personal understanding and development, and it provides that basis for lifelong accomplishment. So fuels our lifelong learning, although it is more difficult to foster and encourage because it's something that comes from within and not an external reward. So it's process, not product